call moderator or removed from the call. Additionally, if you are not a board member or the CEO and her staff, please turn off your video. I'll now read a roll call of the board to identify who is on the call and present in the room. Please identify yourself first before speaking for the record. I'll go through the roll call for each vote this evening. Vice Chair Parker, Commissioner Ames Messenger,
Ames Messenger present.
Commissioner Coy.
Commissioner Coy present.
Thank you, Commissioner Coy. Excuse me. Commissioner Esposito.
Commissioner Esposito present.
Thank you. Commissioner Kenyatta Bay.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay present.
Thank you. Commissioner Mohammed. We'll note him when he does arrive. Commissioner Redding Lollinger.
Reading Lounger present.
Commissioner Rooks.
Commissioner Rooks present.
Commissioner Slater-Harrington.
Commissioner Slater-Harrington present.
Thank you. And I'm also present. Is there a motion to reopen the meeting?
Motion
moved.
Rooks.
Thank you, Commissioner Redding Lollinger. Is there a second?
Second, Kenyatta Bay.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. All in favor? Commissioner Commissioner Coy,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay,
Yes.
Commissioner Mohammed, Commissioner Redding Lollinger,
Yes.
Commissioner Slater-Harrington, and I'm in favor. Any opposed? This motion passes. In recognition of the JRTC and the student performers, we'd like to welcome our colleagues from Edmondson Westside High School.
Sir, Emerson Bridgestone JLTC color guard for rescue mission to both the color. Thank you, sir. Over. Converge.
Whose bright stripes and bright stars through the barrel let's fly. O'er the ramparts we watch, where so gallantly streaming. And the rockets the wonders to the night.
Extending a one round of applause for. And we'd like to thank our student performers from Hazelwood Elementary this evening. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Now I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Santelises for a moment of silence this evening.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to take the time to recognize the passing of City Schools employees. These individuals were committed to supporting our students through their work. The greater City Schools community will fondly remember these employees. Tonight, we send our deepest condolences to the employees, families, and friends. It is with deep regret we inform you of the passing of Harry Foster Preston. Harry Foster Preston started his career with City Schools on June 19th, 2010, where he served the staff and students for 14 years, most recently at Green Street Academy as a secondary teacher. Mr. Preston unfortunately departed on November 17th, 2024, and will be missed by his family, friends, and City Schools. It is also with deep regret we inform you of the passing of Wyhalir Cook. Ms. Cook started her career with City Schools on October 8th, 2001, where she served the staff and students for 23 years, most recently at Violentville Elementary Middle School as a custodial worker. Ms. Cook unfortunately departed on November 8th, 2024, and will be missed by her family, friends, and City Schools. And then finally, it is with deep regret we inform you of the passing of Dr. Gregory Thornton. Dr. Thornton served Baltimore City Schools as CEO from July 1st, 2014 to June 30th, 2016. The Philadelphia native arrived in Baltimore after a successful tenure as the superintendent of Milwaukee Public Schools. Before his role in Wisconsin, he served in district-level leadership in the Montgomery, Maryland Public Schools and near Philadelphia. During his tenure here, Dr. Thornton launched the 21st Century Schools Office, a dedicated group of City Schools professionals charged with ensuring the success of the largest multi-organization school building effort in recent state history. He also shepherded the school district's initial work in providing free meals to its students, a program that continues today. And his work supporting the arts in schools was meaningful and served as the foundation for our current expansion of arts programming in City Schools. Upon being hired, Dr. Thornton said City Schools was a special place for him. In a media interview, he said he would only have left the Midwest for Baltimore. He will be missed by his family, friends, and City Schools. Can we now observe a moment of silence for all of the city employees who have passed? Thank you. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Dr. Santelises, for the moment of silence. Is there a motion to approve the prior open session summaries?
So moved, Esposito.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll take Commissioner Redding Lollinger. Thank you. All in favor? Let's see. Commissioner Ames Messenger, has she joined us?
Yes.
I think she is. Commissioner Coy?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito.
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay?
Yes.
Commissioner Mohammed?
Yes.
Commissioner Redding Lollinger?
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington? And I am also in favor. Any opposed? That motion passes. Is there a motion to approve the closed session summaries?
So moved. Kenyatta Bay.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. Is there a second?
Second, Esposito.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito. All in favor, Commissioner Coy,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay,
Yes.
Commissioner Mohammed,
Yes.
Commissioner Redding Lollinger,
Yes.
Ames
Commissioner
Messenger
Brooks,
present.
has he joined us this evening? No. Okay. Commissioner Slater Harrington? Thank you. Any opposed?
Commissioner
That
Ames
motion
Messenger.
passes. Thank you.
Ames Messenger is
So good
present.
evening, everybody, and welcome to the December 10th board meeting. I am happy to be here with you this evening. The spirit of progression is all around us here in the city schools as we celebrate the achievements during the holiday season as we prepare for the new
Chair.
year. I want to extend my warmest wishes to our students, our families, my fellow commissioners, and others, as well as our staff and our partners in the community. I am immensely grateful for your collective efforts this past year. And it's been a journey of growth, resilience, and shared accomplishments for us all. The district has undergone several organizational changes with the appointment of me as the board chair, Commissioner Parker as the vice chair. And most recently, the board has appointed Commissioner Redding Lollinger as the chair of the Strategic Planning Committee and Commissioner Coy to head the Operations Committee chair. I know these changes have sparked questions about the future of the school board, but I want to assure each and every one of you that our mission remains the same. Each commissioner has an unwavering dedication to the betterment of city schools and the progression of our students. We are aware of the challenges we face as a district and as the district's governing body, and no matter the circumstances, we will continue to push forward so that our students receive a high-quality educational experience. Before we move forward this evening, we want to take a moment to honor our outgoing leadership, specifically our our chair, Ronald McFadden, who is joined with us here this evening. We're very grateful for him taking some time to be with us and recognize that under his direction and leadership, it's given us a solid foundation to continue to build from. We, as part of our traditions here, want to open up an opportunity for our board colleagues to share a few words before we read two proclamations that were sent from us. So I'll turn it over to my board colleagues for anything they would like to lift up.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes. This board, and I know from talking with the public when I was campaigning, etc., has made great leaps and bounds. It has become more open, it has become more directed, and it has become more human. People do not feel isolated from the board anymore. Yeah, there are still barriers, and we're going to continue to improve and get better and get stronger and look out for the people of Baltimore City. But the point that I bring forward in saying that, it was under the leadership of Chair Ron McFadden that opened this board up. It brought it to a new day. It brought it to a day where it can even question itself. Because if you can't question yourself, you can never improve yourself. And so you got it, bro. Thank you so much for everything you brought to this.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. Additional board colleagues?
Can you hear me?
I'm going to read my statement so that I can be composed. Today, we're recognizing Ronald McFadden for just remarkable service and leadership on this board. I want to emphasize the accomplishments under his leadership. Since his appointment in 2018, Chair McFadden has been a force of change, positive change, guiding the adoption of the district's equity policy, being the most huge champion of the arts, and ensuring the success of the transformative 21st century buildings. His vision and advocacy have created a lasting legacy that will benefit our students and community for years to come. I will say that he was instrumental in training me and onboarding me as the chair of teaching and learning, and has always pushed for me to show up and be present as a chair. He has always held us to the standard of centering our children and their achievement. And his leadership missed. I want to thank you, Ronald, for your courage, your commitment, and your relentless pursuit of better outcomes for our children and families. I'm saddened to lose your leadership on this board. I think for those commissioners who remained, this is not just a moment for recognition, but one of reckoning about embodying the culture that we want to promote. It's not enough to honor leaders after their departure. We must respect and empower them while they serve. Thank you, Ronald.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Slater Harrington. Any additional board colleagues?
Can you hear me?
Commissioner Ames Messenger, we may have some sound issues, but let's see if we can try to get Commissioner Ames Messenger.
Can you hear me?
Unmute.
I am on mute. Is it not working?
Not yet. Okay, Commissioners Ames Messenger, we may have to come back to you just because of the sound issues this evening. But before we move forward, I do want to echo my thank you to Ronald for his ongoing mentorship from the time I joined the board through present. I think the opportunity to serve underneath his leadership has helped me to grow in my influence, to understand more about the district, to understand more about the call to serve our children. I am forever thankful for that mentorship and that opportunity to serve on this board, as well as to continue to serve each and every one of our scholars here in Baltimore City. So I'm very thankful for that opportunity and the foundation that you've given us as a board to continue to grow. So thank you immensely for that.
Chair, I'd like to say something. I wanted to join in the congratulations for years of service. I had an opportunity to visit Chair McFadden at his school to see him in his element. And it was truly, truly impressive. And I think it is a testament to his work ethic that he has been able to chair this board and be an integral member of this community and do all of the work that he's done as an educational professional, as an assistant principal, which is an extremely demanding job. And you don't have to do anything but go and observe him at the school to see what he means to that community, see how children respond to him, see how adults respond to him. He's an absolute leader, and I appreciate his mentorship. I didn't have much time under his leadership, but I learned a tremendous amount from Ronald McFadden, and I sincerely will miss him and sincerely applaud his tenure of service. And I know he means a lot to this community. So congratulations on your tenure, and I'm excited to be able to celebrate your legacy today.
Thank you. I'm gonna try one more time for Commissioner Ames Messenger to see if she's able to unmute. Not, are there any additional board commissioners like to share anything?
Can you hear me?
One of the things I
Chair?
really do appreciate is our
We can hear
leadership
you
here in the city
online,
really does
just
a
not
great
in the
job
room.
terms of ensuring
I'll work
that
with
Thank you.
Allison.
they're integral partners in this work, and our mayor has provided a certificate of recognition, which reads, on behalf of the people of Baltimore, I'm pleased to present this certificate to Ronald McFadden in recognition of your dedicated service to Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners during your tenure as chair from 23 to 24. Your passion and encouragement for a more holistic approach to education has positively impacted thousands of students in Baltimore City Public Schools. On behalf of the people of the city of Baltimore, thank you for your dedication and efforts to a better city. The second is one that we provide here at Baltimore City Public Schools, a proclamation signed by myself and Dr. Santelises, whereas Ronald McFadden served as a member of the Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners from 2018 to 2024, as well as serving as the chair of the CEO and BO of the Evaluation, Teaching and Learning Committees, and serving as a member on the Policy and Strategic Planning Committees. Whereas Ronald McFadden served as the board vice chair from 21 to 2023, and subsequently as the board chair from 23 to 24. And whereas Ronald McFadden served on the executive committee for the Council of Great City Schools and for the Board for Arts Every Day. And whereas Ronald McFadden has performed outstanding service to the students, staff, and families of Baltimore City Public Schools and the city of Baltimore. Now, therefore, does hereby proclaim our thanks and best wishes to Ronald McFadden. I'd like to invite everybody to join us in a round of applause and thank you for his service. And Ronald, I'm not sure if you want to deliver a couple of remarks this evening. If you like, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all. I appreciate the well wishes, but most importantly, this work has always been about children. It's been about the children of the city. It's been about school police officers. It's been about our teachers. It's been about our principals who do exceptional work. And I've always wanted to be a role model for our children, particularly our Black boys who very important for them to see folks work hard and dedicate themselves to better outcomes. And so being the youngest vice chair on the board and the youngest chair on the board is something that I want our young people to actually know that they can do the exact same thing. I just encourage you all to stay true to the work for children. As you all know, this is a volunteer opportunity. It is not paid. It is thankless. So I appreciate you all taking this time out tonight. I encourage you all to stand for righteousness and to stand for justice and to do what is right because it is right, because our children are depending on you to lead the system. It is not about one person. So this is nice recognition. It is about all of us collectively doing our work to improve outcomes for our children and for our city. Baltimore City, still the oldest portfolio of schools in the state. We experience generational inequities. We're still feeling the impact of that. Baltimore was the first city to create an ordinance that the city council, made. I believe it was in 1911 that segregated communities. We had two separate school system that served colored children and a school system that served white children. We have an obligation at this point, even though my role is not with you on the board, I am still passionate about bettering the lives of our young people. The roles have changed, but we all have work to do. Everyone in this room, we all have work to do to make sure that our young people are well and that they are better. So thank you all for your commitment. Thank you all for your service, and continue to stand for righteousness and justice. Our children are counting on you. So thank you all. Thank you all.
So before Ronald leads too, he was also recognized for his participation on the California Association of Black School Educators. So this award arrived here at City Schools, and so want to make sure that his leadership is also recognized this evening. So
Commissioner Sally, I just want to say that award was given due to the work of City Schools and particularly the arts community. And so that was provided at their fall conference. So thank you to all of our artists, our arts educators, and our folks who are championing the arts. Thank you all.
Check.
for joining us this evening. We also have similar proclamations and recognition from the mayor for our outgoing vice chair, Commissioner Chantel Roberts. She's unavailable to join us this evening, but we'll make sure that we do send those along to her. We're also very thankful for her service to the board, to City Schools, our scholars and our families as well throughout her tenure and her leadership. So thank you so much. A couple things I want to turn to additionally this evening in our board chair comments regarding the ways in which the district can gather input from students, families, staff, and other stakeholders. Currently, the board is working to establish an ad hoc committee designed to support efforts related to the search. In the coming months, we'll share more information on the process and provide opportunities for the public to get involved. Ask Tanisha if she has our presentation available to share this evening for the public.
Check, check. Check, check. Check, check.
Okay, so this, so there's a couple of things that we want to share on this presentation this evening that we're hopeful that this gives more insight into the process. So if we go to slide 2, please, this evening. Our guiding principles for this search as a whole is that we seek to do this with kind of 3 main buckets underway. So 1, ensuring that we have clear communication with all of our stakeholders about this process and ensuring that there are regular updates on the intention, the process, and progress towards the selection of our next city school CEO. Our second guiding principle is stakeholder input. We're committed to a full range of stakeholder input throughout the process, including our city schools, parents, our teachers, our community members, district staff, and others that can provide valuable input. And third is the benefit of a thoughtful transition. And so we're hopeful that over the next 18 months, that this gives us an opportunity to partner with Dr. Santelises and her staff to ensure that as we're thinking about the information and knowledge that needs to be transferred to the next CEO of Baltimore City Public Schools, that we capture that institutional knowledge as well as how we can best fine tune and deliver on the initiatives that are underway. Our next slide, please. Our 3 main processes that we're going to highlight tonight in the search process is a profile development, candidate recruitment, and interview and selection. So the first step in the process is engaging with all of our stakeholders to clearly understand the needs of our district. That helps us to determine what the profile of the candidate who best be selected to lead city schools in the future. The second process is on candidate recruitment. So based on the profile from the community and the support of a national search firm that we will select, the board will actively seek out candidates to apply for the position. And so that actual position description will be posted on our website as well as shared with our entire community. And the interview and selection process is based upon governance and board policy, as well as supported by our national search firm that will interview and help us select the next chief executive officer to begin in July 2026. The next slide, please, describes more on what those 3 phases entail. In the profile development on the next slide, as that's coming up, will involve the national search firm, as we discussed. This is where our initial set of community listening sessions will occur. We recognize fully that we may conduct additional listening sessions to help us make sure that we have all the information that we need to build that profile. And then the transition and preparation and planning that we discussed that will occur with Dr. Santelises and her staff. The recruitment process and phase will involve ensuring that we're building awareness of our search, that our position description is fully posted, and that we're targeting a range of national recruitment efforts to help us select the next CEO. The third and final phase is the interview and selection process, in which applicants will be interviewed and selected, an announcement of a candidate will be made, and then we'll support a full transition to a new administration by July of 2026. And on the last slide here, we want to thank Dr. Santelises, all of our staff, as well as our district leaders, our community, who will be a really integral part of this process that will help us to provide information. Tonight, we will provide more information on where we can select more information or receive information from the public on our website, and we're asking for active participation from each and every one of our stakeholders in this process. And I believe that concludes our information available to us at this time. So we'll be back in January with more information for the public on the search process. So speaking of involvement, the board will be hosting multiple community engagement efforts for the public's input. The first is the annual COMAR hearing this Thursday, December 12th at 5:30 p.m. The meeting will be held virtually as an opportunity for parents and staff to share feedback on the proposed annual review of school recommendations. So this is one of 2 sessions that will occur. So for more details on the annual review of schools, please visit the annual review website on the City Schools website. The second is an offsite Safety and Wholeness Committee meeting chaired by Commissioner Mohammed on Wednesday, December 18th at Western High School. We invite the public to come join us as we work to incorporate cultural, restorative, and healing-centered initiatives for our students' well-being. Student performances and free food tasting by the City Schools Food Nutrition Office will be provided. And lastly, the board will host its annual Student Board Forum on January 16th at the Baltimore Design School. And we encourage all of our students to attend and speak directly with the board about policy reform, personal school experience, and school safety, and more. As well, food will be provided in Spanish language interpretation will be available if needed. Finally, as a reminder to recognize important holidays during the winter break, tonight will be the only public board meeting in December. City Schools will be closed December 23rd through the weekend, opening on January 2nd. So with that, I'm going to transition over to Dr. Santelises for CEO.
I am going to invite Chief Emily Nielsen for the.
Can you switch to camera 3? And then can you go to camera 8?
Check, check, check.
It's muted. Event Services is muted. We can't hear the PAP.
Recommended that Anthony
Check, check.
Cooper Jenkins, currently
Check, check.
interim assistant principal at Frederick Douglass High School, be appointed assistant principal at Frederick Douglass High School effective December 16th, 2024. Recommended that Latasha Hilton, currently educational associate 12-month Home and Hospital, be appointed educational specialist 2 Home and Hospital effective December 16th, 2024. Recommended that Craig Rivers, currently interim principal at Carver Vocational Technical High, be appointed principal at Carver Vocational Technical High effective
Check, check.
December 2020. Recommended that Kristen Taylor, currently interim principal at Achievement Academy at Harbor City High, be appointed principal at Achievement Academy effective December 16th, 2024. And on CEO notification, an appointment from the Office of the Chief of Schools, Lisa Robinson, formerly police captain, Baltimore City Police Department, be appointed school police major effective November 18th, 2024. Congratulations to everyone on tonight's PEP.
Thank you. Up there. Read a brief background, as has become our tradition for our 2 principal appointees this evening that are here. We also have Principal Rivers and Principal Taylor, who I know could not be with us this evening. First, Tawanda Cofield previously served as principal of Federal Hill Preparatory School, where she led the school from 3 to 4-star state rating. Before joining Baltimore City, she led several schools dedicated to supporting children with special needs. Principal Cofield holds a master's degree in supervision and administration and a master's in autism and other pervasive developmental disorders from Johns Hopkins University. She received a Bachelor of Arts in Journalism and Public Relations from Temple University. Congratulations again, Principal Cofield. And Sheila Adams served as assistant principal at Federal Hill Preparatory School during the 2023-24 school year. Before that, she spent 13 years at the Tunbridge School, including 10 years as principal. Lovely footnote, principal to all three Santa Lisa's girls. Thank you. Her career also includes 19 years in Baltimore City schools as a classroom teacher and literacy coach. Principal Adams holds a bachelor's degree from Westminster College in New Wilmington, Pennsylvania, and a master's degree from Loyola University. Congratulations, Principal Adams. And then, even though he's not here, and I know you all will tell him, Craig Rivers comes from the historic Frederick Douglass High School, where he served as principal for the last 6 years. Previously, he served as principal of Mergenthaler Vocational Technical High School for 9 years. Mr. Rivers began teaching at the former Northern High School after transitioning from the United States Army as sergeant. He holds a bachelor's degree from Johnson C. Smith University and a master's from Loyola University. And even though it is not included in this blurb, I will also say that during his time at Frederick Douglass High School, we saw great increase in the school culture indicators based on his leadership during that time. Please welcome or congratulate Principal Craig Rivers. And finally, Kristen Taylor served as interim principal at Achievement Academy. She had previously taught middle school English and social studies while serving as a model teacher for 8 years. She received her bachelor's degree in middle school education from Radford University in 2006 and began her career in city schools. She earned her master's in school leadership and professional development from Towson University in 2010. Congratulations, Principal Taylor. At this time, I am very proud to announce for the 15th year in a row, City Schools has received an unmodified opinion or clean audit, which is the highest level of opinion available of our fiscal year 2024 financial statements. I am pleased to welcome Aries Coleman, Bill Early, and Erin Davis from our external audit team at Clifton Larson Allen to briefly explain to our public and the board what that means in terms of our effectiveness in meeting our financial reporting obligations. And are you all in person or?
I think we're on, we were presenting remotely. I hope that's okay.
Very good to see you, Aries.
It's nice to see you too always. Thank you.
Absolutely. Please, I will turn it over to you, ma'am.
Okay, great. Thank you. I know Bill is here, so a lot of folks on the line. So, Bill, but okay, there he is. I think he's there.
Yep, we're here. And Dr. Santalese, we sent in our PowerPoint presentation, so if somebody could please share that with you all. And then Eris, Eris, your camera might be off, Eris, if you want to be on camera.
No, I can see everyone. I don't know if everyone can see me. I can see everyone.
We can see you. We can see you both.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right.
And the presentation is up.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead. So thank you so much for allowing us to present to you tonight. And also congratulations to the appointed positions. And you had some other congratulatory moments there. So just thank you for allowing us to share that with you. At first, I want to say before we go through the presentation that to thank the CFO, Mr. Daugherty, and then you have his team as well as we work with the grants team as well. And you have your human capital department. All of them work with us as part of this presentation that we're having tonight. And I want to reiterate that Dr. Santalisa mentioned that the school board has unmodified opinion. We'll talk about that. And also more importantly, that the 9/30 MSDE regulatory deadline was met for the year ending June 30th, 2024. Next slide, please. Okay, so we went to introductions, and then we do have staff that work on the engagement as well, and they're doing a lot of day-to-day work and kind of really doing the reason why we're here is because they work a lot with the school system staff and make sure that the information that we're presenting tonight, in our opinion, is accurate. Next slide, please. All right, couple things we're gonna go over tonight. We're gonna make it quick. But we have some required communications. We are going to talk about the audit scope and process, the big highlights, the opinions and the communication with governance. And then we will do some talk about some upcoming financial statement pronouncements that will affect how the financial statements look, as well as some of the information that's presented in the financial statements themselves. And then we do some thought leadership at upcoming webinars, because those of you, especially your school system, you have any young accountants, we would definitely like them to attend to hear what's going on in the accounting profession. Next slide, please. All right, so we talked about this a lot, so I'll go over this slide real quickly. But we did audit the school's fiscal year, which ended June 30th, 2024. That was presented to MSDE, which is Maryland State Department of Education, by the regulatory deadline of September 30th, 2024. Right now, we're in process of reviewing the schedule of expenditures of federal awards that are administered by the school system. And what that is we look at all the federal awards and expenditures that the school is administering. We're required to look at a sample of those transactions, and then we make similar to the audit, we make a determination of whether or not they were in compliance with the federal regulatory guidance, as well as if there are any MSDE guidance that are related to those federal programs. We do issue a report on internal controls over financial reporting and compliance. And then we issue a letter to governance, which is going to be some of the key components that we're going to talk about tonight. Next slide, please. So for the single audit, these are the programs that will be tested this year. Of course, I'll just go through. We have the ARPA funds, or the Corona state and local fiscal recovery funds. They're called ARP, they're called SLURF, different names, but basically that is part of the American Rescue Plan that is that was basically flowed through to the school systems. And then we have your special education, which is also known the federal level IDEA cluster. Title II, we have the student support and academic enrichment program. And then we have the ESSER education stabilization funds, again, part of the American Rescue Plan and funds that were flowed to the schools, lower schools, as well as some of the colleges. The single audit is not due to MSDE until 12/31. We're currently working with your grants team as well as the finance team to get that issued to MSDE on time. Next slide, please. All right, so the audit process. When we talk about the opinion that was issued, it was mentioned that we gave an unmodified opinion, which is the highest level of assurance that the auditors are allowed to offer on the financial statements. So what does that mean? So the audit process and the opinions, it's a risk-based approach. We do not look at 100% of the transactions. As part of that risk-based approach, we do a couple of things to determine where, if the financial statements were going to have a material error, where would that be? And that's where we focus the most of our time. And then we do some other procedures, maybe over some lesser riskier areas. So we look at internal controls. We talk to several persons in management. We talk to the internal auditor. We talk to Dr. Santalisas and other persons throughout the school system to get an idea of processes, and more so the consistency of how those processes are being performed. Revenue recognition. you're always hearing that someone's overstated how much money is coming into a business. So revenue recognition just across the board is not just for the school system, but just in general for the industry. Revenue recognition is always an area of risk, and we look at that area pretty heavily and make sure that the monies that are being recognized actually were earned and are recorded in the right period. And then the last part is significant estimates. We talk about estimates. There are some numbers in your financial statements that are really not $1 or $2. They're based on other underlying assumptions, factors, and from those assumptions and factors, you get an estimate. And so because of the uncertainty or some of the high level risk around some of those assumptions, they are looked at as a higher risk. And we want to get an understanding of those assumptions and determine if they were reasonable for the outcome that was relied on for the financial statements. Next slide. Okay, so I kind of talked about a couple of these items. So the unmodified opinion, we talked about that. Federal awards are in process. The financial statements that are being presented did not have any material weakness. We had one item that's noted over the cash reconciliation process. That process is being worked on, and I know that the school system has a new, an updated financial system, which is definitely helping the finance team with resolution to the cash reconciliation concern. And then the federal awards are also in process. Next slide. Management letter recommendations. So these are just best practices. These are items that, as we go through the audit, we're not allowed to be a part of management, but we do kind of put that, what you say, a bug kind of in management's ear to say, hey, maybe you want to look at this, these items here over the long haul, but they're not a finding. We don't have any, they don't have any impact on the financial statements. It's just best practices. And that's under the information technology observations. So we do an IT review over the financial system. And they just noted that had 5 operating systems that have reached the end of the life. And a recommendation was for the IT department if they want to upgrade those systems. Next slide. All right, so this is some required communications. It was written in the letter to governance, but we also are required to make these communications part of the presentation. So the audit was performed in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards. We mentioned we give reasonable assurance, not absolute. We do not look at every item in the financial statements. We do assess whether or not the significant estimates made by management are reasonable. And then we evaluate the overall presentation of the financial system. We did issue an unmodified opinion. The school has significant accounting policies, which are in note 1 of the financial statements, and that gives you an overview of how the financial statements are structured and what policies are used to create that structure. Next page. We talked about the estimates. So some of the estimates that are in the financial statements that are being presented is the incurred but not reported, and that's the claims. These are health insurance claims that may have happened before 6/30/2024, but a claim was not submitted to the healthcare provider. So it's an estimate as to how many of those claims may be part of a liability before year end. Of course, depreciation on your fixed assets, fair value of investments, the pension and the liability, again, based on actuarial valuations. We did not have any corrected misstatements. We did not report any uncorrected misstatements. We did note as part of, again, the process of the new accounting system and reconciling that the financial office is kind of working with just some reconciling between the general ledger and subsidiary ledger. And that's really is kind of standard when you implement a new system. You really are kind of going from one way of accounting and slightly different. So sometimes you have to take a moment and just get both of those accounting systems to agree. So that's a normal occurrence. We didn't have any disagreement with management. Management was very cooperative. Management did not consult any others in regards to the auditing standards that we use. There were no major issues discussed with management prior to us issuing an opinion. Next slide. Okay. Just a couple of things. I'm going to go through these quickly. That's going to impact the financial statements. One of the things that you heard maybe a little different than what we presented, we talked about estimates, we talked about IT, and they're part of new standards that were implemented for the year under audit. And what they do is kind of help us or make us evaluate internal controls over estimates, your IT systems that your financial statements are built, as well as any other factors besides the actual financial data that may affect the financial statements. Next slide, please. So I'm going to go through these very high levels. So the person's doing the clicking and just we're gonna keep moving. But just some GASB standards that's going to come down the road. Next year, we're going to have compensating absence that is going to change, and the way the compensating absence liability is reported. Next one. So this one is really going to be a footnote if it relates to the schools. It's just some additional disclosures and the footnotes to the financial statements. Next. So this is the big one, and I'm sure Chris is probably shaking his head. Eventually, the financial reporting model that you guys see now is going to change. And when that comes down, everyone probably will be ready to retire. But until then, we're just letting you know we have another year before that takes effect. Next, please. And then we're going to be looking at how the classifications of non-financial assets, again, it's more of a play on the words and how they're presented in the financial statements. Next. So just some insights. We have, again, any of the young people thinking about the profession of accounting or auditors or tax. We also have other lines of careers in our industry. Please, we have this, I don't know what they call it, but you can scan it there. It'll take you to our website where you can get some educational information, as well as you have Bill and my contact. Please feel free to ask us any questions. Bill, before I wrap up, do you have anything?
No, I think the last few slides, Eris, we just included. We don't have to go through them. They're just there for information purposes, not related to the schools. But overall, Dr. Sanalisa, another good audit for the school system, followed on timely with MSD is the highlights that I would take away for you and the commissioners.
Great. We thank you, Bill, you, Aries, just for the wonderful partnership over the years and being able to work together on this kind of extensive audit. I also just want to congratulate Chief Doherty. I see is Marianne here too. Just the full team, because I know that this is a full court press to get to the audit every year, and we just value your partnership. So thank you again to our partners at Clifton Larson Allen, as well as our own finance team. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one. Happy holidays to everyone too. Thank you.
Wow. I would now.
Dr. S.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Commissioner Coy. My
If I-
apologies. I'm just barreling through. My apologies.
If I can just underscore one piece, right, as a member of the Operations Committee, the Internal Audit Committee, as one who in my own organization has navigated audits, turning around an audit from June 30th to September 30th, how many years was it? 13, 14 years? Clean 15. Let's be correct on the number. 15 years for this size of organization, just tremendous. Cannot be underscored enough the how impressive that is, how hard that is, and Chief Doherty and team, as you rightly point out, and the work that they do, and under your leadership, just want to pause for a half moment and say that is no small feat, and something that we celebrate here in city schools as a point of excellence.
Thank you, Commissioner Coy. I appreciate that. Thank you. Very good. And you can see both Chief Doherty and Marianne are just sitting there beaming. I think they're probably most happy that it's over. But
Almost, they got a single audit.
that's right, they have a single audit. You're absolutely right. But thank you again for that, Commissioner. Next, I would like to call School Police Corporal Kenya Fayal forward to be honored for outstanding service. And she looks absolutely shocked. On November 11th, a Dunbar High School student was wounded in an altercation after leaving school. Corporal Fayal displayed extraordinary courage and skill by quickly performing life-saving techniques alongside Baltimore City police officers, ultimately saving the young person's life. Her swift action and professionalism exemplify the dedication, compassion, and selflessness that Baltimore City police officers demonstrate every day. I want to congratulate you, and I also want to note for the larger Baltimore City school community that this is not the first time that you have demonstrated this level of bravery, courage, and true focus on the well-being of our young people. Thank you for all that you do. And we now have
I just want to say she's one of my stars. So, it's important to me to recognize the stars when they shine. And people always say, give people the flowers while they're here. So thank you. Here's your flower. We're going to have many more flowers because as we move forward, we're going to recognize our stars as they rise. Thank you.
Thank you both. It's always best when it's a full surprise. I am also very pleased to report that city schools continue to show progress on the recently released Maryland School Report Card for the school year 2023 to 2024. We're thrilled that we continue to exceed the pace of growth across the state in its entirety. 26 Baltimore City schools improved their rating over the previous year, including Yorkwood Elementary and Furley Elementary, both of whom improved from 1 to 3 stars in 1 year, the only schools to do so in the entire state. And once again, Baltimore Polytechnic Institute earned the highest rating of 5 stars. Now, we still have work ahead, but this is just another indication of continued sustained progress across the district. Chief Jones will be with us in January to give us a more detailed information and walk us through, but I'd like the public and the board to know that the full presentation is posted on the website if you would like the details. One of the things that stood out to me, and it really is kudos to the entire city schools team, is that it is across the city. It's not in one section of the city that schools are improving. When you look at the map of Baltimore City, where the resources historically have and have not been, what you see is that there are improved school ratings in every section of the city. So shout out to the entire city schools team, both at the school level, central level, and I want to thank Chief Jones and her team for just the high level analysis. I continue to hear from school leaders that they appreciate the assistance in actually knowing what the formula is, knowing how they can improve, and we are seeing the results this year. So thank you again. I was also recently updated on our cell phone free school pilot program. Now, just as a reminder, these are 25 pilot schools that have committed to being phone-free schools, implementing policies that ensure cell phones are off, away, and secure from bell to bell. And I am pleased to share that early data is very promising. These schools, as well as other schools who have implemented a similar approach, have seen dramatic changes in classroom and school culture, improvement in student behavior, and an increase in student academic engagement. I want to commend these school leaders for taking the critical step of removing the distractions of cell phones and other personal electronic devices from their schools, recommitting to the integrity of a learning environment that supports student academic and social emotional success. And I also just want to say we are learning a great deal from the pilot school leaders and their stakeholders. I look forward to bringing more detailed information and data to the board as it considers an updated district-wide board policy that really reflects the best practices learned on the ground in our schools. And in addition to our 25 school leaders who really stepped forward in this, I also want to thank Josh Sivan and the legal team. I want to thank Stacy Place-Jose and the school's office, as well as Seema Shaw Nelson, my special assistant, who have really just dug in, and we are doing it thoughtfully. It's not just about decreeing something from on high. It is about making sure that we are learning from the ground what is actually working, and we're seeing the benefit. So I look forward to bringing to the board suggestions based on the work of real school leaders and their teams later on this school year. Now, one of the other things that we love doing, even when sometimes it cannot turn out the way that we all wanted to do, is celebrating our district student athletes. And this fall, we have a lot to celebrate. The city championship in cross country saw Polly taking honors for the boys team and Western for girls. In the city championship, girls volleyball, Polly took home honors, top honors in both JV and varsity. In boys soccer, Patterson High School is both city and regional champion. Shout out to Patterson High School. And in girls soccer, Polly was the city champion. We were also many of us were inspired for our inaugural girls flag football season this year, and our city champion was Dunbar. We're looking forward to competing at the state level. And then for football, for Division 1A and 2A, Dunbar High School again took regional and city champions. And then for Division 3A, 4A, Mervo was the regional champion. Both teams did not win this year, but they lost in incredibly close games in this year's state championships. They are still champions to all of us, and they did incredibly well. So I just want to shout out not only our football teams, but all of our fall championship teams in sports and our student athletes. We continue to see that our student athletes continue to have some of the highest GPAs in the district. They graduate at higher rates, and they go on to leadership positions. So yes, it is about winning, but it is not just about winning on the field or on the court. It is about winning in life. So I just want to shout out all of our student athletes from this fall season. Can we give them all a round of applause? And then finally, I want to remind everyone that the annual School Choice Fair will be held this Saturday at the Baltimore Convention Center from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Make sure you participate in this important process and the next big step in your students' education. And on your way out this evening, and for those of you who may be visiting North Avenue, I do want to draw your attention to the new presentation of student art in the hallway. It really is just, I would say, kind of museum gallery level presentation. It looks wonderful, and you will see there this year's 3 winners of the CEO Holiday Card Art Contest. We had 3 winners, pre-K, 3rd grade, and 1 secondary winner for middle school this year. And just want to give a shout out of congratulations to them because our young people are getting more and more opportunities, and our art students really showed out this year. Their designs will go all over, not just the city and the state, but all over the country, bringing holiday greetings on behalf of city schools. And this concludes my remarks for this evening, Chair.
Thank you so much. The artwork is beautiful, and it's a welcome addition as we walk down the hallways here at City Schools headquarters. So thank you for making that available. I'll now review the consent agenda. Board colleagues, please let me know if you have any items that you'd like to be removed, and please state your question for staff. Beginning with item 9.01, the 2025 legislative platform. I am going to pull that for presentation this evening. 9.02 BTU AFT Local 340 AFL CAO contract. Item 9.03, the Fraternal Order of Police contract. 9.04, supplemental appropriation third-party billing. 12.01, studies weekly. 12.02, supplement contract increase. 14.01, computers, hardware, and related services contract services. 15.01, wood floor refinishing, replacement, repairs, and relining services. 15.02, mold remediation services. 15.03, Chilmark Corporation elevator replacement at Wolf Street Academy. 15.04, Chilmark Corporation, Dallas F. Nichols. 15.05, motor coach bus transportation services. 15.06, moving and hauling services. 15.07, E. Peconius Construction. And 15.08, which also belongs to E. Peconius Construction. 15.09, CNN Associates. 15.10, Cole Roofing. 15.11, Educational Logistics. And 16.01, National Vision Administrators Vision Benefits. Yes, ma'am. Children's Guild Association 12.02. It's a social studies supplemental instructional materials contracts. Why don't we, for the moment, why don't we pull that for clarification before we vote on that this evening?
Thank you, Chair.
Got it.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Before we move forward, let me see. We are going to move into public comment. We'll start with 7.01 for recognized groups, the Baltimore Teachers Union. Mr. Nathan Farrell.
Hello. Good evening, Board of Commissioners and Dr. Santelises. Nathan Farrell here. I'm a Spanish teacher on assignment at the BTU. I do look forward to the day that all of our meetings are going to be fully interpreted in Spanish for our familias Latinas that are here with us tonight. I also want to thank the board for listening to our members on the issue of locking doors. Committing to classrooms with doors that lock is the right decision. Investing in evidence-based safety measures is the right decision. Additionally, we're grateful to the board for listening to our members and agreeing to engage in a thoughtful review of our employee retirement savings plan. So all City Schools employees, including folks in this room, will benefit greatly from this. A recent article titled "Maryland Teachers May Be Losing Thousands from Their Retirement Savings Without Knowing It" highlighted the plight educators across Maryland face to save for retirement, and it also reflected City Schools' commitment to ensure that employees have access to lower fees non-commissioned agents, and better investment options for all city employees. And we thank the Board of Commissioners for that. BTU members ratified sections 5.1 and 5.2 of the 23-26 teacher chapter contract, and we encourage you, the commissioners, to ratify the agreement today. Currently, the BTU is at an impasse with the board over our PSRP chapter contract negotiations. We're at an impasse because the board's negotiations team refuses to compensate our members adequately. There are over 200 paraprofessional and school-related personnel job titles, and the PSRP contract covers our school secretaries, for example, who are the face, the voice, and the front line of every school community. It covers the payroll specialist working with an antiquated and error-prone, as was evidenced in the audit system, how old and how at the end of life these systems are. And our payroll specialists work diligently to ensure that our colleagues are paid correctly using these antiquated systems. It covers the registrars and the office assistants who maintain records to ensure that our per pupil funding is accurate, so the wonderful school leaders who are promoted tonight can staff our buildings. It covers community school coordinators and student wholeness specialists who de-escalate a community crisis in one moment and then literally start the laundry machine and restock the food pantry shelves in the next. The contract that we're at impasse over covers our paraeducators who change the diapers and wipe away the cold weather sniffles, all while providing academic and behavioral support. And it covers our bus aides who are lovingly transporting our most vulnerable learners to and from school every day. These are the workers who are negatively impacted by the board's unwillingness to compensate them fairly for the work they do. And that is why the BTU has entered impasse, because we know the following, that our members are deserving of better compensation that honors their years of service in this district, and they're deserving of compensation commensurate with Baltimore County. For example, our working conditions are far more challenging than every other Maryland school district, and our PSRP members are well behind Baltimore County in terms of career earnings. Baltimore County has significantly better and higher longevity rates that kick in earlier, and that's a better reward for working longer in the system. And the district can greatly improve and restructure the compensation for our PSRP chapter members. The school board has agreed to significant raises, restructuring for our school police, who were honored tonight, 32% increases for school police. Our school administrators, and congrats on everybody who got PEP tonight, they are earning bonuses of $4,000 on top of 4% salary scale increases. And today the board will hopefully approve a much needed restructuring for the teacher chapter compensation. The BTU entered impasse mediation with a more modest proposal than everything I just listed. And the district failed to present even a meaningful response to that. And that's why we're at impasse right now, even today. The current contract for our PSRP members does not have increases based on education credentials, which the BTU seeks to remedy. And to be clear, that is literally how you create a para to teacher pipeline, incentivize education. I sat and I listened to a para educator yesterday. I was at her school, and she's been loving and serving our students for 20 years. And the entirety of her 20-year career, she has maintained a 7-day-a-week work schedule, working a second full-time job at Walmart. On the weekends, she works 20 hours sometimes. She starts 5 a.m. to 3 p.m., usually works double shift both days. And she has a message to the board. Please let me allow to deliver it. She says, "We are the mothers when their mothers are not there. These kids come to us sick on a daily basis. They face neglect, and it is us, the PSRP member, that meets that child with love." And she wants the board to understand the liability that they face as educators in our schools every day. Some parents think that our PSRP members are magicians, that they can wave a wand and fix everything. They're incredible people. But the PSRP members feel like the district thinks that they're also magic, that they can work tirelessly and just not get paid for it. We can't keep on taking out of the emotional and physical bank accounts of our PSRP members and not put something back into them. So we urge the board to make a meaningful effort at impasse negotiations with the BTU. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Farrell. Appreciate your comments. Or do we have an alternate member from the SCDC? Definitely come back, so let's move on to Executive Officer for Public Comment.
Thank you, Chair. All right. To those coming to provide public comment, the board recognizes the importance of receiving public comment on matters of educational interest. Each speaker shall be granted 3 minutes. Official time will be kept at the end of 3 minutes. Please conclude your remarks. No speaker may use the opportunity to air employee grievances or make complaints on behalf of specific students. Speakers must stay on the agenda topic for which they signed up to speak. It may not verbally or personally attack a school system employee or board member. Should speakers stray from this guidance, they'll receive a warning and asked to redirect their comments. Thank you again for your interest and participation in City Schools education. We'll now move to our first public comment from Julia DiBusolo. Agenda topic is FY26 budget recommendations. This will be commenting live in person. You will have 3 minutes.
Hi, good evening. My name is Julia DiBusolo. I am the Director of Arts Every Day, a nonprofit that works in partnership with the Office of Fine Arts and organizes community support of the Fine Arts Strategic Plan. Each year, members of the Baltimore Arts Education Initiative Advisory Committee develop recommendations for the upcoming fiscal year based on data and experience. But first, before we get to that, we have some really good news to share. We continue to see a steady increase in the number of certified and conditionally certified arts teachers district-wide. And based on data collected in 2022-23 compared to 24-25, we see a 7% increase in the number of schools serving pre-K to 5, offering both visual art and music. We see an 11% increase in the number of schools serving grades 6 through 8, offering 2 or more disciplines. And we see a 10% increase in the number of schools serving 9 through 12, offering depth of study, which means 3 or more courses within a discipline. We want to thank Dr. Santelises, the Office of Teaching and Learning, and of course, the mighty Office of Fine Arts for their dedication and collaboration. Our letter, which we'll distribute through Dr. Judkins, and we have some paper copies, does outline several recommendations for your consideration. So I will use my time to focus on our most urgent concern, which is administrative support and accountability at the school level for our fine arts teachers. Lack of school administrative support, scheduling, and access to materials of instruction continues to pose a serious risk to teacher retention, especially for newly hired teachers. We have heard from several new teachers who are trying to teach district curriculum with no access to supplies. Many arts teachers are not given a budget for materials, which makes planning instruction very challenging. Teachers are afraid to question or raise concern out of fear for retaliation of their administrator. Meanwhile, schedules vary greatly and do not allow for scaffolded sequential instruction. Imagine being a teacher who does not have an appropriate supply bank or list of materials or a schedule that is conducive to student learning. It is easy to understand why you might think to look for another district where these basic givens exist. Effective teacher recruitment and retention are crucial to the long-term sustainability of the Fine Arts Strategic Plan, and we recommend developing centralized guidelines, oversight and accountability for scheduling, program budgets, and timely provision of instructional materials that exists beyond just the budgeting process that occurs the year before, but really happens in real time throughout the year. And then dedicating funding for the early career arts teacher PLC. I want to conclude. Thank you.
Our next public comment is from Zoe Phillips. Agenda topic is students' creative expression and access to the arts, commenting live in person. Oh, you'll have 3 minutes.
Hello, Dr. Santelises, Board of School Commissioners, and other leaders. My name is Zoe Phillips. I am a senior at Baltimore Design School. Today, I am here as a member of Baltimore Youth Arts Advocacy Council, also known as BIAC. We believe that all students deserve the right to a first-class education that includes the arts. Before attending classes at Baltimore Design School, in which I went to City Springs Elementary Middle, I didn't have enough time in art class to do anything because the classes were so short. I would draw or make crafts in another class, and the teachers would always get upset. They would say that I wasn't doing anything but making a mess, and art isn't as important as my coursework. I would be so upset that no one cared about art like I did, and I didn't see it as making a mess. I saw it as doing something that helped me calm down when I was stressed, and it was a way to express how I was feeling at that moment, and I really loved drawing. After a while, after all the times I had my art materials taken away from me during my classes, and as many times the teacher would tell me that my coursework was the only important thing, I started to lose motivation in art. I didn't have anywhere to practice my art, especially not at home, because I didn't have many art materials. My mind began to block out all of my creativity because I couldn't let it out when I wanted to, and I became pretty drained. I wrote this poem to talk about the creativity that I have. Sorry, I wrote this poem to celebrate the spark of my creativity that makes me who I am today. I look back down at my canvas, which was before filled with great imagination, but now back to white. I started to believe that the others were right. But the others are not right. My art should not be avoided and ignored. My art is my mind. My mind should be explored. My mind should not be hidden and drift into boredom. My art is my light, my endorsement, my right. My canvas is my blanket that warms me through the night. I will stand tall with my canvas by my side, my brush as my guide. One day, my art, my mind will be heard loud as a powerful roar, and my art, my voice will no longer be ignored. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Our next public comment is from Andy DeGuise. Sorry if I mispronounced. Agenda topic is electric school buses. Commenting live in person, you'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Andy Diegues. I'm a seventh grade student at Hampton Hill Academy. I'm here today with my little brother Manny, who suffers from asthma and autism, along with other students who also faces challenges with asthma. We are joined by our parents and most students and most importantly, Chispa Maryland, an organization that helped our families understand environmental justice and the harmful effects of diesel bus emissions on our health. For children like my brother, who already struggle with breathing due to asthma, exposure to toxic diesel fumes makes life even harder. Did you know that Baltimore City has some of the highest asthma rates in the country? According to Maryland Department of Health, approximately 20% of children in Baltimore City have asthma, a rate significantly higher than the national average. These high rates are no coincidence. They're linked to poor air quality and pollutants like diesel emissions, which directly harm our lungs and worsen asthma symptoms. Every day, students like us ride diesel school buses that pump out dangerous pollutants, creating a mobile source of air pollution that we cannot escape. Research shows that children riding diesel buses are exposed to higher levels of perlucate, I don't know how to pronounce it, sorry, matter, which can trigger asthma attacks, reducing lung function and increase the risk of respiratory illnesses. That's why we're here tonight to urge you to take full advantage of all available funding to accelerate the transition from diesel school buses to clean, zero-emission electric school buses. These buses not only protect students' health, but also reduce the city's overall air pollution. Chispa Maryland has collected a sign-on letter endorsed by over 20 nonprofit community organizations that that support the electrification of school buses. Even more importantly, over 40 parents and students, like my brother and I, have joined this call for action, urging you to prioritize our health and safety. The decisions you make today will shape the future for thousands of students in Baltimore City. Please take our recommendations seriously and seize this opportunity to secure funding for electric school buses. Together, we can make a healthier, cleaner, and more equitable future for all children in Baltimore. Thank you for your time, your leadership, and your commitment to our health.
I just want to say something as well. We have the sign-on letter for each of you guys to read it and go over all the community organizations that signed on to this letter that are really into prioritizing and moving forward with electric school buses.
Thank you. Next public comment is from Jordan Fowler. Agenda topic is paraeducators' wages. This will be an email that I'll read. Dear CEO and school board members, my name is Jordan Fowler, and I'm a paraeducator and member of the Paraprofessional and School-Related Personnel Chapter, PSRP. It often feels like PSRPs are looked down upon by many employees in the Baltimore City schools because they are seen as uneducated. I can attest that PSRPs are educated staff members of Baltimore City schools. I, for one, am a paraeducator with a bachelor's degree. I'm often asked why I don't consider being a teacher because of my degree, and I find that offensive. The reason is because I believe that being a paraeducator is a valuable career. Being a paraeducator allows me to have my own relationship with my students. As a paraeducator, I'm often the one who the students go to first because they spend the most time with me throughout the day. For example, I rotate from small group to small group. I attend lunch with the students and I go to resource with them, to name a few. Having a bachelor's degree helps me to be more effective with my job. One example that comes to mind is with ELA classes. I am able to provide a deeper understanding because I am able to break down the story in a more meaningful way due to my degree in English with a concentration in literature and culture. Paraeducators should receive a differential from the district for their educational backgrounds because it will encourage more paraeducators to have a degree and it allows the students to work with an alternative, effective educator. If a member of the PSRP chapter sees a pay difference based on college credits or degrees, more of them will see the job as an important, valued career. In addition, they will work hard to make sure they meet the needs of the students in our district. I am asking for PSRPs to get a raise for a differential education based on college credits and additional college degrees. Thank you for listening and considering my recommendation. And our last public comment is from Melvin Henson. Agenda topic, support for school leadership, commenting live in person, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity. And unfortunately, Commissioner Bay left because he made a statement in reference to it's more open than it used to be. And I've been coming here for 30 years, so I'm trying to find out where it's more open at. But basically, I'm here tonight because, you know, for the 30 years or so I've been coming here, one of the things that I've always fought for was elected school board. And one of the reasons is because we always feel that when you have elected school board, then you have people that's a little bit more independent and they wouldn't just go along with the grain, they would go along against the grain if it's what they believed in. So I'm here to support Commissioner Harrington, you know, from being a champion in terms of standing up, and if it's something that she don't think is right, she's not just going along just to go along. She's strong enough to have opposition because she believes in the best interest of the community and of the children. And I think that all of us should strive to be like that because we always say it's about the children. But if we just go along because we don't want to be different, then we're really not fighting for the interest of the children, right? So I just want to say thank you, you know, and I'm begging you to stay because we need people like you. I mean, we need champions. You know, the people need somebody that's going to give them some hope, some motivation. And I'm simply saying you're doing that for not just the children, but for us, the grown people that see what you're doing, saying you lead that championship fight, and not bending down. So thank you, right? And I'm encouraging other members to be like that. Ms. Espiano, we was out there, campaigning together because we believe that people need to be independent on the board. They shouldn't just sit here and go along because they're here, right? So I'm saying thank you, and we need champions. I mean, look, I'm 72 years old, and the school system is worse today than when I went to school. Children is learning less today than when I went to school. I mean, the young lady stood up here and she talked about the arts, right? And how they don't even have the opportunity for her to practice what she loves, right? So I'm saying we need champions on all levels, right? So I know you can ready to tell me my time is up. So me and Dr. Bunley is here together because I'm gonna let him conclude with the comments, but I'm begging y'all and I'm begging you to stay because you being there is hope for a whole lot of us. And I'm not just here representing myself. I'm representing a lot of people that's not here tonight because this woman is a champion for us. And I want everybody to know that you are our champion. So please stay here.
Thank you. That's time.
Thanks. Squeak and clean. Thank you. Stay here and we got your back. I'm not here representing the mayor tonight. I'm right here representing the community. Right? Okay.
That's the end of public comment.
Thank you for. Actually, before we move on, I just want to make sure we didn't have any comment from ASCC. Okay, so we're going to move forward for our board committee reports. Unfortunately, our student commissioner is not here this evening, so we'll move forward to our operations committee chair, Greg Coy.
Thank you. I'm happy to report that on November 19th, the Operations Committee met and we discussed a number of items, including some student enrollment projections, as well as some of the implementation of policy related to compensation and the changes that have occurred there and that are working to implement still. We also had a discussion about licensure updates and some of the hard work that the district has been doing in the Office of Human Capital to listen and respond to some of the shortfalls and the need to improve the systems in teacher licensure process and certification. There's some changes that are occurring around the process by which items are submitted to MSDE to expedite the process there, as well as other efforts to better serve our teachers in that process. Additionally, there was a presentation relating to Medicaid fund process, and one of the items that I particularly took note of is the ability, the increased ability and the degree to which the district has been able to have Medicaid billing for mental health services inside school as well, and just how important that is for our young people, that they are receiving those various supports, that the schools really are the heartbeat of our communities. So thank you to those that attended and presented, and would encourage anyone that is interested in any of those topics to go and watch the posted recording of that committee meeting.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Coy, to the policy committee for report.
The policy committee met on November 19th at 4 to 5:30, and we looked at ADH, which is Community School Strategy. We also reviewed an administrative regulation for KDD-RA. And we saw where we reviewed compliance reports for IHAMA, which is heroin and opioid addiction education, and JFD withdrawals and reentries. Our next policy committee meeting is December 17th, which will be virtual, and we will be looking at JICJ, student use of working electronic devices, and receive administrative regulations on IGE-RB, school library media program, and compliance reports for JFA residency and non-residency tuition, JFBC informal kinship care, and we welcome anybody that wants to provide public comment to do so by sending a notification at 9 a.m. on Thursday up until the Monday before the meeting.
Want to raise two dates for the community. They're on the December the 18th at Western High School. We will be holding a public safety and wholeness meeting. We want to encourage everyone to come out, but particularly we want to encourage our students to come out, as this work is about you, and this is an opportunity for your voice to be heard. This committee meeting will have a special presentation from our fellow Commissioner Brooks. So we encourage all of our school community members and students to come out. Our second date is a save the date of January the 13th. On January the 13th, we will be holding a community listening session where we will be looking at and discussing the board goal of wholeness, the work that's being done around it, and how we measure it. This will be held in the community, and we will have further details at the safety and wholeness meeting, which means you gotta come out to learn about it. So look forward to seeing you at Western on the 18th at 4:30.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Teaching and Learning Committee met on December 3rd. We had updates on our math and literacy goals. Just still recovering. For our math, we received updates and a presentation on the focus for improvement areas of high quality instructional materials. You guys talked about the pilot that's taking place now and the efforts to increase teacher, coach, and leadership capacity to implement that dealing with fidelity, and talked about the expansion or scaling of use of that curriculum across the district. For literacy, one of the highlights was hearing from the Baltimore Design School, the principal and literacy coach, to hear about the wonderful work and the support that they are doing to meet learners where they are and help them achieve their goals and their targeted, how they target growth. They talked about how they are differentiating for learners and supporting teachers and helping students at every level in their literacy journey. Our next meeting for teaching and learning is January 7th, when we will discuss extended discipline.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Based on public comments, are there any additional items board members wish to pull from the consent agenda? Let's move to 9.01, our legislative platform for a presentation from the Wellness Rep.
Okay, it's not allowing me to go to slideshow, but it's up there. Good evening, Chairman Sally, Board Commissioners, Dr. Santelises, and members of the public. I'm Duana Surratt, the Executive Director of the Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners Legislative Team. I say team because I also work with Melissa Broom from the CEO's office. And I'm here to provide information about the 2025 legislative platform. It's my recommendations and suggestions for adoption tonight. I'm having technical problems. Here we go. So I wanted to first start off with the board's role. Because we have several new commissioners, I wanted to give you the education article and the code that allows the board to set the legislative policy, management, and operations of the school system. So the policy portion of the board is one of the most important roles that the school board has in its work. So to develop the 2025 legislative platform, I listed all the different groups that I spoke with during the course of my work. I meet with individual board members. I have discussions with the CEO staff, mainly through Melissa Broom, and sometimes with chiefs when necessary, especially with Chief Legal Officer Josh Sibben. I meet with various elected officials throughout the year. It's just not a one-time moment. MABE, which is the Maryland Association of Boards of Education, they have a legislative committee, but also MABE has a subgroup of my colleagues called Green Street. We meet weekly throughout the year to discuss issues that bubble up legislatively. The Public School Superintendents Association, the executive director, is part of the Green Street Coalition, so we meet on a regular basis. I had individual meetings this fall with PTA, PCAB, CCAC, ASCBC, and also the Maryland State Board of Education, or I should say the Maryland State Department of Education's legislative person also attends the Green Street meetings in the legislative committee. So with all that, I help to form my opinions and recommendations for the board to consider. I'm also providing you with sort of like some key dates this legislative session. So session begins January 8th, which is just in the short of a month. Typically, there are over 2,000 pieces of legislation introduced each year. And of those 2,000, about 400 relate to education in some manner. Also, the governor will be introducing or has to introduce the budget bill, the operating budget bill by January 15th. And that's a very key date. That's a key date in every year, but it's also extremely important this year in light of the fiscal issues that I will address later on at the state foresees. The final date to introduce any bills that are guaranteed a hearing for the Senate is February 3rd and for the House is February 7th. And that's important because as I move through my legislative platform, there may be items that the board would like to have legislation drawn and or amendments. Crossover, which is when each of the bills switch houses. So the House bills go to the Senate bills go to the House. And that is a key date because then you know, or you have a better idea of what bills may actually have a chance of passage because a bill has to pass both houses in order to become a law. And then, you know, in Maryland, the governor does not have to sign a bill. It just has to pass both houses. And session ends on April 7th, as better known as sine die. So here's just the overview of some of the big key topics that I foresee this session. Clearly the budget, the operating and capital budgets, blueprint, because of the fiscal issues that I will be talking about a little later, we have to be very conscientious of what happens with any changes to the blueprint. Adequacy of funding, which is also tied to blueprint. Our CIP funding request, which is our capital improvement program request of $169 million this year. Our aging infrastructure. So capital is always very important to this school board. And the poverty count. While we are trying to ensure that poverty is truly counted, we have something, and I'll get into a little later about the neighborhood indicators of poverty, which we are hoping can be considered. It will be a tough year this year, but we will still move on, as we always have, to ensure that our kids get everything that they need. Mental health for students, staffs, and security and safety. And that's going to be, I think, rolled up into some of the juvenile issues we'll see and what we call the reportable offenses that occur in statute. So first, we'll start with the state operating budget. As I said earlier, right now, there is $1 billion or foresee $1 billion budget gap in the state. And it intends to grow, or they expect it to grow to $6 billion if there is nothing done with any revenue enhancement packages or any other measures. Last year, we went into session with the mere $761 million deficit, and they were able to figure that out. $1 billion now, back to back, it's a little bit more difficult. So that's why I throw in there about the Blueprint concerns. We have funding for Blueprint right now in the state coffers to last through to 2027. After that, we never did have anything specifically set aside to go beyond that. So now with the state's budget woes, the concern is, and I'm hearing that there are discussions about how to slow down the growth of the Blueprint. If we recall, when we had Thornton, there was a discussion of slowing the growth, and slowing the growth really just sort of stopped the growth. And so that's what we really need to be concerned about this session. And even speaking with other advocacy groups, and when I listen to some of their online virtual meetings, everybody is concerned about the Blueprint and what will happen. Of course, we're always concerned about, again, unfunded mandates. So this could potentially be a year where we always see unfunded mandates, but since there's so few state dollars to go around, they may end up pushing more onto the school boards and the school systems. Another issue is the concentration of poverty grants. Right now, we have in law through 2025 that our concentration of poverty grants can be used to help with some of those fine arts things, fine arts programming that our students spoke about earlier. This is set to sunset, like I said, in FY25, which is this next budget year. We definitely want to continue that. And so we're hoping to get an amendment on the budget bill to include, to remove the sunset. The Maggie McIntosh School Arts Fund. This was supposed to be and is a non-lapsing fund. And I put this here where it's supposed to be non-lapsing, but this is the kind of fund that could just sort of disappear out of the budget because it's just something very simple. And so I think we just have to be very careful about ensuring that that does not happen. The CIP, again, ensuring that at a minimum, the state gives $450 million that it has promised to give for school construction. We generally get about $25 to $28 million of that on a typical school year. The Healthy School Facilities Fund. This is a fund that is $90 million, and it's set to sunset in fiscal year 2026. And last year we went in to try and remove that sunset, but instead, and I'm going to move ahead, they did remove the sunset, but they decided to reestablish the School Facility Assessment Work Group. They're supposed to meet starting in June of 2025, and they're to look at all the school buildings across the state and assess their conditions. And coupled with that, they're supposed to set aside $70 million to help it's called the Nancy Cobb Facility Fund, to set aside money to help bring some of those school buildings that are the worst in the state once they prioritize them from the facility assessment group, to help them with some construction or renovation. But the problem with that is right now we get $45 million of that $90 million in the Healthy School Facility Fund. There's no guarantee in the $70 million Nancy Cobb Facility Fund that we would get $45 million. So we really do want to remove the sunset. We also want to work with the Facility Assessment Group when they convene in June, and I'm sure I will be down in Annapolis and/or looking at it virtually and talking to our elected leaders on that Facility Assessment Work Group. But we really want to keep that $90 million in statute right now until they come to a conclusion of how to prioritize and understand exactly what that priority will look like. We also want to reclaim the Aging Schools program, which was wrapped into the Built to Learn. They said when the Built to Learn was passed that the Aging Schools program, which is a very small program of $6 million that most school districts use to facilitate the renovation of things like small libraries and small items, that they would wrap that into the Built to Learn, and Built to Learn would be they would wrap the CIP Aging Schools program into the Built to Learn program, but there's no evidence that that has actually happened. So again, I think we want to resurrect that Aging Schools program. I mentioned earlier about counting poverty. So for those that don't recall, I believe it was maybe 2013 or so, we became a community eligibility provision district. And that's a federal law that allows all our students to eat. If the district through Direct Cert has about 40% of its students eligible for free and reduced price meal, you automatically are eligible to have all your students eat. But the problem with that, as we discovered, is that the way that the state counts poverty is by using the free and reduced price meal forms. And so when we had the passage of the blueprint, in order to, according to them, to get a true accurate portrayal of what the poverty count is, they wanted to return to us collecting forms. Now, we haven't collected forms in years. Also, there's no incentive for our parents to actually fill out forms. So we, through research and working with some advocates, discovered that there is something called the Neighborhood Indicators of Poverty. And that uses more socioeconomic issues, housing issues, not just Direct Cert. It also looks at education. It looks at the concentration of poverty that a person lives in, not just income, like a free and reduced price meal form does. And so even the State Department of Education, they were tasked with looking at a way to count poverty. They also endorsed the Neighborhood Indicators of Poverty a few years ago. But unfortunately, the state did not want to use the Neighborhood Indicators of Poverty because it would have cost the state about an additional $300 million. And if you recall, the state a few years ago, last year had a $761 million gap. We have a $1 billion gap this year. We still need to push to find a way to count poverty. Last year, we were successful in having the Enough Act include language in there that requires the Governor's Office of Children to look at the Neighborhood Indicators of Poverty and figure out the best way to count poverty. And they're supposed to have a recommendation by October of 2025. I believe that's the thing. I think it's October. I'm gonna have to get back to the date. I believe it's October. October 1st, 2025, of the best way and recommendations to count poverty. And so while it's not really a legislative action, but it's something that we really need to keep an eye on, that there's the governor's office was just newly put together over the last year. And so now we have to make sure that this is something that actually is beneficial for all, and including, especially for our kids. Some other things that we need to look through or look forward to this session is finding innovative ways to recruit and retain staff. Also, our school safety, which I would talked about the reportable offenses. I think there's definitely going to be legislation that we need to work with and help put guidance around. If you recall, there are certain offenses that when a juvenile is arrested, that they have to notify the superintendent that they're coming to their school district. So it's like it's a murder or arson. It's some major offenses. What happened this past year was that a student, and I won't say which jurisdiction, but a student was in a jurisdiction and then transferred to another, and that new jurisdiction didn't know that the student had these charges. And so they found that was a loophole. So the State Department of Education went to the AELR committee of the General Assembly, which is the Administrative, Executive, and Legislative Review Committee. I might have missed a letter there, to seek additional regulations to tighten that up. But the AELR committee said, no, we know we're going to look at that during session. So that alone, we know that there's going to be something coming out to deal with the reportable offenses and how we ensure that that gap is no longer there. Again, trauma-informed care is always something that we need. It's not just about restorative practices, which is what I think a lot of some of our elected officials believe is the only thing, but there should be other things, but trauma-informed care is something that will be very important this session. Mental and behavioral health issues will pop up. And some other key issues to watch: pre-K students and private providers. The blueprint requires that by 2028-2029 school year, that 50% of our pre-K students should be in private provider settings or public settings. Now, Baltimore City has been doing pre-K for many, many years. And so the concern we have is that if there's a requirement for this 50%, that we may end up moving kids from our public setting to a private setting just to get them at the 50%, which makes no sense. Last year, we thought we had an amendment in the law to change that, but it fell off. So we're going to go back again this year and try and get that done. Pre-K students, tier 2 funding. Pre-K students are divided up into different tiers based on poverty, and they receive state funding, or the school system receives state funding for teaching them. And tier 2 funding was supposed to, tier 2 students were supposed to come into the school system this past school year. But in order to save about $7 million, the General Assembly last year delayed the tier 2 entrance of pre-K students in exchange for the per pupil to increase to $19,750 by the 2027-2028 school year. And so I think we just want to make sure that that doesn't disappear in the budget this year. Environmental factors impacting education. We heard a student talking about the diesel fuels and also just the general air quality. I believe we'll see some legislation introduced like that. Chronic absenteeism, that's going to be a big issue. There's been bills in previously about average daily attendance, funding for average daily attendance, which is, something that this board has always been against. And I think we should definitely still be against that. But I think there's going to be some legislation that will ask for some guidelines and some recommendations, some reporting on what to do about chronic absenteeism. Cell phones, that's a big issue as well. I'm sure we're going to see something about cell phones, but what we need to do as a district is to ensure that they can put guidelines of cell phones, but to ensure that there's local control on the specific policies that each district is required to implement. The charter school facilities funding, that has been introduced for the last couple of years. That is a bill where charter schools would receive direct payment of $2,000 per pupil to allow them to deal with any renovation and construction of their privately owned school buildings. We have opposed that in the previous years. I suggest we continue to oppose it. It was about nearly $50 million the charter schools would receive. And if you recall, as I mentioned, our CIP, we only get about 28, and on a good day, million from the state. And so they would have gotten $50 million to allow them to deal with their privately owned buildings. But people don't understand that the IAC in 2023, that's the public school construction program, they have passed regulations to allow charter schools to access state funds for some of these, for renovation and construction of their facilities. In fact, in 2024, one charter school got $560,000, and 2025, there's a pre-authorization for another charter school to receive a little over $1 million. So this is something that I think we should continue to oppose. Not that we don't believe in charter schools, but when we deal with that sort of money, and they know when the charter school law was passed that was part of the deal, that they would take care of their buildings. And also artificial intelligence. Again, that's going to be something introduced that would deal with how school systems use artificial intelligence for tutoring and for teaching, and what sort of allowance do students have to use artificial intelligence when they do homework and do research. And so those are some of the big issues. I had this all written down, but I went it off the top of my head, so I hope I didn't miss anything. So then I just hope that the school board will adopt. You have the longer version, which has specific supports and oppositions with you. You've had it, I gave it to you, I think, in October, and then again, you had it in your packet. The public has it as well, and it has all the very detailed information.
I want to start off by saying thank you. This is extremely important work. I think that in the past couple of months, my time on the legislative committee has really opened up my eyes to the significance of our role in this work. We knew it was important, but really, the crust of the funding that we receive as a district comes from the state. And the things that are important to us during this process, this is how we protect it. So I want to encourage us to spend time with these legislative efforts that have been brought before us, because there are efforts to take our funds away. We often talk about our poverty dollars, which those are it's very obvious that those dollars are at constant threat by the advocacy of other districts, that we have a role and responsibility to protect those dollars. But there are other dollars that those other ELAs are after as well. So I just want to highlight the importance of this. I want to thank you for your leadership in this work, and I look forward to supporting you in it, both on the legislative committee and this year in Annapolis.
Thank you, Commissioner Mahmoud. Commissioner Vollinger?
Thanks. I just had a couple questions. First of all, thank you for the presentation and for your work on our legislative agenda. One is just a quick clarifying question. So I heard a couple numbers tossed around for CIP, just going back to the state capital budget. You know, you said we got about 28 million last year. What's the total? I heard two different figures for the total. What's typically the total?
The request was 169 million this year. And generally we get around $28 million from the state.
And do we think, what is your anticipation around?
It'll probably be about the same. I don't think it'll be any higher. No.
And then I just want to make sure I'm understanding our position on reportable offenses. So is the position that we support reportable offenses for certain offenses? What can you clarify what exactly we are?
The reportable offenses, I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off. The reportable offenses are already in the law. They are already stipulated. I think what I was trying to say is that will be an issue this session. Without seeing the actual legislation, it's hard to say what it will be, but I believe that there has to be an effort to ensure that local school districts aren't used as a liability and point the finger at the school districts as saying you didn't do this, because we have to be notified. And so there should be, maybe it's Department of Juvenile Services, maybe it's I don't know, some other entity. They should notify school districts. It shouldn't be just Baltimore, or in our case, Baltimore City shouldn't be the ones on the ones told that you didn't do it.
I see. But the legislative effort is likely going to be focused on fixing the loophole that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Commissioner Slater-Harrington?
Sure, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Dewan, for comprehensive. And you did that off the top of your head. But I wanted to.
I've been doing it a long time.
I want to take a moment. Council City School recently on our call talked about what could be happening federally. And I just wanted, while we don't know what is coming, there have been some forecasts. And I just wanted to take a point of privilege to request that in the coming days that we talk about and maybe discuss this around what could be happening federally with regard to legislation, to include the dismantling of the Department of Education, or the dismantling of Title I IDEA. It's not,
Right,
but
right.
I think that there's a lot of conjecture that is happening in the public sphere, and I think it's important that we as a district be able to bring our stakeholders along with us on this journey, because while you're talking about state session, there certainly is federal implications for our work moving forward, and we should just bring along our stakeholders on that journey.
And for the dismantling of the Department of Education, I mean, I was young, but I do remember and that Ronald Reagan wanted to do that as well. And that didn't happen. I think we could see a scaling back of the Department of Ed, but I don't think there's going to be a complete removal of the Department of Education or Title I. Mm-hmm. Right. And the angst. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner. Is there any additional comments this evening? Hearing none, is there a motion to adopt the legislative platform for 2025? So moved, Mohammed. Thank you, Commissioner Mohammed. Is there a second?
Second Esposito.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito. All in favor? Commissioner Ames Messenger.
Yes.
Hey, our online. Commissioner Boyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay is along with us. Commissioner Mohammed,
Yes.
Commissioner Reagan Olinger,
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington, and I am in favor. Any opposed? Oh, is Commissioner Ritz with us? Nope. Okay. I don't think so. This evening. Any opposed? This motion passes. Before we vote on the remainder of the consent agenda this evening, I just want to go back to clarify the record. I may need some friends here to help make sure we've got this correct. So 12.01 is supposed to be the social studies weekly. Excuse me, I'm sorry, 12.01 should be the Children's Guild contract, and 12.02 should be studies weekly social studies. Is that correct? Great, thank you so much. I just want to make sure the record was complete and correct. Is there a motion to approve the remaining consent agenda? Thank you.
Ames Messenger so moved.
I'll take Ames Messenger as a second. All in favor, Commissioner Ames Messenger,
Yes.
Commissioner Coyle,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Mohammed,
Yes.
Commissioner Reagan Lollinger,
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington. And I'm in favor. Is there any opposed? That motion passes. Before we move on, back to item 9.04, the third-party billing item, the board would like to express its support and excitement for the third-party billing supplemental appropriation request that was shared during November's operation committee meeting and ultimately approved tonight through our consent agenda. This approval speaks directly to the need for our investment in our most vulnerable students, those with disabilities, and those needing mental health supports. This release of the third-party billing funds will enable the district to provide all schools with a direct application of funding to support and deepen special education support and services. Secondarily, this expands our mental health supports to students by nearly doubling our investment in expanded school behavioral health services. We as a board want to thank the third-party billing and finance team, as well as the academic and special education staff for the work on this proposal. Look forward to hearing about the impact of these investments in future board meetings. Thank you again for the thoughtful work on behalf of our students and our schools. We are going to move forward to item 10.01 for presentation, information discussion on the administrative modernization project. Chief Emily Nelson or Chief Tommy Jones.
Good evening, commissioners.
Good evening.
Chief Tommy Jones and I are looking forward to presenting you with our annual full board update on the Administrative Modernization Project, which is a multi-year program that's a partnership across information technology, finance, and human capital. And sorry, I thought the slides were going to be shared. Do you need one of us to share the slides? We can certainly do that, but I thought they were going to be shared.
Emily, I can queue them up for you.
Great, thank you. Next slide.
As always, when we do our projects, we always look at how they connect to the board's strategic priorities. And the AMP project makes two primarily, and that is priority 3, high quality modern systems and making sure we have equal access. Excellent. As we know, since the very beginning, the AMP goals have been to replace a 24-year-old system. That has been a challenge, as it always is. And we also want to make sure that we are moving towards a single source of the truth. AMP is not the only thing that we're doing for that, but it is a major step forward in the finance and human capital area. Next slide. Just a quick recap. AMP is made up of multiple phases, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, which actually is made up of sub-phases. Phase 1 was finance. We went live in July 5th of last year. And the finance team has been yeoman's in taking us live and getting through the audit and so forth at the end of the year reporting, and we've been very successful at doing that. The second one was the budget. Budget is actually being reevaluated. As we were set to launch it, we realized there was additional things we wanted to do. And then phase 3 is really in 3 parts. And the 3 parts is the human capital work with the payroll involved. It is the performance management system, as well as the learning management. Performance management actually did launch, and Chief Nielsen will talk about it in a second. And learning management is being prepared to be launched. Next slide.
So as Chief Jones shared, we launched our performance management system, which we call CHARM, this fall since our last full board update about AMP. And so I wanted to provide you with a few highlights. We had over 93% of our staff complete the training to use CHARM at the beginning of the year. And we also had a record high 79% complete their individual development plan in CHARM this year. We know that the individual development plan lays an important foundation for success in the evaluation and employee development over the course of the year. So we were glad to see that the new platform was enabling a higher percentage of our staff to participate in that. We also have had some strong feedback from staff about this new platform, with over 73% of respondents agreeing that CHARM is a better platform for evaluations, which included 83% of our school leaders who responded. This is a key reason why we selected this platform, since our teachers and our principals have been having to use 2 platforms for their evaluation and their student learning objective historically, and now it's in 1. We also received some positive feedback about the customer service the team provided and the training and resources that were available to staff in using the new evaluation platform. We're looking forward to seeing these successes continue as we roll out additional platforms in the coming months.
As I said earlier, AMP has many timelines. There's the financial, there's the human capital. And the one thing that we wanted to highlight here tonight was that we had initially planned to roll out the payroll system for January of 2025, but that has changed, and we've now moved that to 2024, sorry, to 2025, January 2025. So it'll be later in the year. Next slide. What we wanted to just briefly update everyone is, why do we need more time prior to go live? 2 major factors. The first one was as we were about to roll out and testing, we discovered that there was a major technical issue with one of our platforms and the integration with each other. After a lot of testing, we realized we could not be confident that we would create and generate paychecks accurately. That was an untenable situation that was not acceptable to us. So we made the very tough decision, after all the hard work to drive towards January 2025, that we were going to delay it and make some corrections to the technology, as well as a number of other areas. Next slide.
So now that we've made the decision to postpone the go live of human capital management, payroll, and UKG, the electronic timekeeping solution, we're actively replanning for when we can bring that live. And since we are considering a later date, we're having to work around the workloads of the team that does the setup and testing for this system, which will be running the budget process when we get back from winter break, and then involved in hiring and processing over 1,000 new staff members for the start of the upcoming school year. So we're working through that to make sure we can fix the integration, do all the retesting, prepare staff. And because this is a payroll system, it does need to start on the beginning of a quarter for reporting purposes. So we're looking at either a July 1st, October 1st, or January 1st start date instead of the January 1st, 2025. And we'll be sharing a replanned timeline with the board and the community in January. Next slide. So we always look to how we can learn from what has happened and to share our lessons learned in our board presentations. So in the last year, we've learned, of course, the importance of testing. It was through testing extensively that we knew that we weren't ready to go with the payroll and timekeeping. We did learn in the last several months about the importance of moving quickly when there is a problem discovered, and to try new solutions and test them out rather than to keep testing a solution that doesn't seem to be working. We also learned that we have some work to do to improve our end user support. We use our heat ticketing system, and we learned that we need to be able to respond to concerns submitted via heat faster and present stakeholders with resolution. So that's something we're working on addressing as we do our replanning. And finally, we do have what we call change champions on every school and every team who support this change management through additional messaging and communication support to their school colleagues and their team members. And we need to do even more to involve them and help them bring their team members along in this change process. Next slide. So our next steps, we're working right now with the team to replan our timeline and our budget, which we'll be sharing in January. And then we're doing more testing, more development of the system, as well as training, resources, and materials, and making sure that we're communicating to stakeholders throughout the district about what the plans are and how they'll be experiencing their work day to day at city schools.
It's beneficial for us that when we see a problem early on, we don't wait for the problem to fix itself. Jump on it, try to fix. I think that one of the lessons that I would suggest that we take from this and looking outside entities to ensure that top tier team that as a city schools, I think that our kids deserve the best of who I work with. So when we identify a partner, let's best of them. Question would be around costs. Now, talking about pushing this back, and there are some potential costs that may come along with this. I want to make sure that we have the ability not to wait on this vendor suggesting a cost, but us kind of pushing to find out what we're going to be liable for, if anything, and really having a push, making sure that they're liable for the extra time that we're going to have to spend in starting to do our beta testing all over, making sure that that doesn't fall on the backs of our kids. So is that something we can push for? And if so, when can the board hear back from you regarding any cost, if at all, if any at all?
That's already in progress, and we'll be sharing with the board an update in January.
Yeah, and I do want to just one additional point, quick point. When we realized that the vendor was not performing, they were a systems integrator, so one step down from the actual owner. We went to the primary organization, and I have to give them credit. They responded quickly with a team to come in and help us evaluate what was going wrong, what we need to fix. They've been meeting with us almost every day for the last couple of weeks once we made the decision. And so we're trying to do exactly that. We're trying to figure out what it takes, where the responsibility lies, and what are we going to do differently. It's not a year of work. It's spreading the work out over until we get the right date to make it successful. So we are working very diligently on that very thing, and we will give you an update, in the first quarter of this year or in January.
Any additional comments, questions? Mr. Coyle?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for the transparency and the conversation around lessons and learning. It certainly is something that, so many teachers rely on and school-based staff, and wanting to know that you all are sort of working to get it right really matters. So thank you for that vulnerability and that conversation here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate
Thank you.
time this evening and the presentation. We're going to move forward to the Office of New Initiatives for our next two items, so operator waiver and cap request, and going into our next item, which is annual review for Newsong.
Good evening, I'm Angela Alvarez. I'm the Senior Executive Director of the Office of New Initiatives for Baltimore City Schools.
Good evening, my name is Tiffany Young, Specialist, Office of New Initiatives.
You're gonna do it, okay. Great, so tonight we're presenting operator waiver and cap requests. On a biannual basis, school operators can make requests to make changes to their contract. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Tiffany, who's going to walk us through the requests.
So we'll start with our board priority connections, which would be priority 5 and priority 6. And just to give an overview of what waiver request process looks like, waiver requests cover waivers of district policy, major changes to academic or other school programming, changes to enrollment and capacity. Opportunities for requests happen in 2 windows, which would be fall and spring. Requests can also be made as a part of the renewal application. Requests that are made as a part of the renewal application are considered separately from the application itself and are voted on after the renewal vote. Key considerations in this process are rationale for how change meets a school need, evidence of demand, stakeholder engagement, quality of school programming, and the capacity to implement it, which can include anything from staffing, facility, etc. Our waiver timeline starts when the school submits a request that begins on November 1st. Requests vetted by our office and key offices happen between November and January 2025. Requests presented to the board for information is happening right now. We're in tonight on the timeline. And then next in January, the Charter and Operator-led School Advisory Board considers the request and provides advice to the CEO. And then on January 28th, the CEO's recommendation is going to be presented to the Board of School Commissioners for a vote. So we'll start with our geographic attendance area waiver request that we've received. It comes from Green Street Academy, school number 377. They are requesting a geographic attendance waiver. They are operated by Green Street Academy, Inc. They're in a current contract term from 2024 to 2029. The grade configuration is 6th through 12th grade. Green Street Academy is requesting a geographic attendance waiver, citing the potential to address lower than expected enrollment and chronic attendance challenges among scholars living outside of the geographical attendance area. Green Street Academy also indicates that the waiver could support stronger partnerships with feeder schools through joint programming. The school states that if granted, the waiver would allow for priority placement of scholars within the geographic attendance area, which they believe could enhance engagement with families in nearby communities.
And just one more thing before we move off of Green Street, just so we're super clear for members of the public, this would be establishing a geographic area where people who live in that area would get preference in the lottery and be more likely to get seats. So that's what the request is, to be able to establish a geography around the surrounding school community to give preference for seats into the school to those communities, just to be super clear.
And so we'll move into enrollment waiver requests that we've received. First, we have Bard High School, school number 362. They have submitted a request to modify their admissions process operated by Bard College. Contract current term is 2020 to 2025 with a grade configuration of 9th through 12th grade. Bard has submitted a request to modify their admissions process to include a review of applicants' attendance records. Bard states that this change would help support students academically and would position students for success in high school and college level coursework. This school is in the renewal process currently and is recommended for a 3-year contract renewal pending board approval. Next up, we have the Tunbridge School, school number 373. They are requesting an enrollment cap increase from 455 students to 478 students. They are operated by AFIA Baltimore, Inc., in a current contract term from 2020 to 2025 with a grade configuration of pre-K through 8th grade. Tunbridge requests an enrollment cap increase from 455 students, which excludes their pre-K of 20, to 478. Tunbridge asserts that this increase would provide more seats to the community and offer greater financial flexibility to address the school's needs. Their plan includes adding more seats in the middle school and increasing enrollment in elementary grades. This school is currently in the renewal process and is recommended for an 8-year with conditions contract renewal pending board approval. Just to kind of show what this might look like, the last few years of the contract proposed that they're up for renewal right now is shown on the screen, and it's going to look the same throughout the contract if approved, with the approved cap of 455 students, the requested cap change of 478, with the difference being 23. And that's it for our waivers. Are there any questions, comments?
Okay, let me defer to my colleagues for any questions they may have this evening.
Thank you. Thank you for this. A question on Green Street and then also a question on Bard. What is the anticipated impact on the socioeconomic makeup of the school if the waiver is granted? What do you have sort of an analysis of the area and how it would impact?
Not yet. So that's part of the vetting process where we're kind of still beginning. So when we come back at the end of January, it'll be with a full recommendation that reviews all of those kinds of considerations.
Thanks. I'm getting ahead of it. The second question is about Bard. And I guess I'm curious how common this is. I'm a little skeptical of these types of requirements. I think kids in middle school don't get themselves to school. So I think holding a kid accountable, holding a student accountable for attendance, to me is a questionable practice. I'm curious how pervasive this is and what the rationale for the request is.
Yeah. So one, Bard is a high school. They're they're early.
But they would be correct, but they would be looking at
Oh,
they'd be looking at the attendance of middle
attendance
school
from when
students,
kids
right?
are in middle school. I'm
Yeah.
with you now. Sorry.
No problem.
Long day. I'm with you now. It's not common. It's not something that we do currently in our district. There was a time when we did look at attendance. We've moved away from that practice for a lot of the reasons that you cite. But schools can make requests.
Okay.
So.
Additional questions that we might have? One I had was about when we're looking at the capacity of our operators who are involved. How heavily does that weigh when we're looking at the track record of our operators in this process to be able to absorb higher caps or any other waiver in this process?
Yeah, so school quality is one of those things that we're looking at. And that whole capacity goes into like, could they handle more students? What's the climate like? Like, what are these other indicators? As well as what's their staffing plan? Do they have a realistic plan to be able to sort of address that? So all of that kind of factors into the evaluation.
Great, thanks. Hearing no additional questions, why
I
don't
have
we?
a quick question.
Yes, go ahead. I'm so sorry.
Hey, and these are relatively small numbers when we're talking about the scale of the school district, but looking at how this impacts like the larger strategic plan in that these students, even if there are only 30 of them, are coming from other places, how does this play out in terms of the long-term strategy for maintaining that we have a district portfolio with schools performing at their peak size? Does that make sense? Like, are there certain schools that we're anticipating these students to be coming from, and will that ultimately negatively impact other schools in the portfolio?
Yeah, I mean, right, again, we haven't done that analysis yet, but that's part of what we look at. Like, what's the impact on that? And so part of what you'll hear when we have an actual recommendation are why we support or do not, and those considerations. So we'll go through all the things that Tiffany shared in terms of the factors. We'll actually go through each one with considerations. So you'll see a detailed accounting of that in our
Thank you very
recommendation.
much. That makes sense.
Great. I think we're ready to move forward to the next presentation.
All right. So next we want to officially share our recommendation for New Song Academy. So on November 10th, when we first shared the renewal recommendations, we had a pending recommendation for the school. We wanted to understand better their financial situation. And so tonight we're going to share an update on the recommendation. And again, I'm going to turn it over to Tiffany, who's going to walk us through.
Okay, and so this one is connected to board priority 4 and 6. Just an overview of the operator renewal process, again, for those of us joining us tonight. It was developed in 2012 by a stakeholder working group, which included school operators, supporting public school of choice, Maryland Charter Schools Network, and City Springs City School staff. Renewal is a process to review performance of operator-led schools, including charter, contract, and transformation schools. Key features include consistent set of metrics from year to year, annual debriefing process with key stakeholders, narrowly focused changes to address challenges that may have arisen. 18 schools are currently going through the renewal process in 2024-2025. Renewal occurs in the penultimate year of a school's operating agreement, and the following recommendations can be made to the board on terms of its next agreement. Partial renewal, which is 3 years, full renewal of 5 years, extended renewal 8 years for schools with a history of multiple successful prior renewals, and also non-renewal and possible school closure. The operator renewal process, here's an overview of it. We first start with a review of that's conducted by the Charter and Operator-led Advisory Board, which includes members that represent the community organizations, nonprofits, school operators, and district representatives. A second level of review happens with our CEO and administrative review that considers the advisory board's recommendations, the qualitative and quantitative review, and a thorough administrative review. Then from that, a final recommendation is made to the board. Finally, the ultimate decision on all operator renewals rests with the board, which considers the recommendations and rationale of the CEO, the operator renewal report, testimony given at public board meetings and work sessions, the contents of the official record, and factors that are listed in policy IHBJ and administrative regulation IHBJ RA for charter schools, and for non-charter schools, policy FCA and administrative regulation FCA RA. Our operator renewal timeline is just an overview of what has occurred thus far. Tonight, we are giving you an updated recommendation for New Song. So New Song Academy, school number 322, the operational history is as shown. They're operated by New Song Community Learning Center, Inc. The grade configuration is pre-K through 8. The enrollment right now is 322. And for New Song Academy, they're originally a new schools initiative school that became a charter school in 2020. The school has had multiple partial and full renewals and is currently in its initial 5-year term as a charter school. So for New Song, they received a developing in student achievement, a developing in climate, and the updated rating of developing, which includes an additional financial review for finance and governance. The recommendation is a 3-year renewal with conditions to expand school size and to improve financial capacity. Some highlights of their renewal is that they have the recommendation that we're presenting now. They have a highly effective in each of its MCAP growth measures in ELA 6 through 8 and Math 6 through 8, where the school grew in its 95th and 81st percentiles. They're effective in MCAP absolute performance for ELA 6 through 8, developing in MCAP absolute performance for ELA 3 through 5, not effective in MCAP absolute performance for Math 3 through 5, and effective in school effectiveness review measures. Currently, they do not meet expectations in audit content and internal controls, where the review found that the school has had significant financial challenges, which will impact the future sustainability of the school, including several years where expenditures exceeded revenue. That's why the recommendation includes the conditions that the school needs to expand the school size and to improve financial capacity.
Yeah, if I can just add a little bit of context. So this is the first time New Song is being reviewed as a charter school. And so the financial responsibilities of charter schools are different than when it was a new school initiative school. It's also a school that's been working on expanding. It's a very small size school, and that's been delayed. It's been trying to move into the Gilmore building in concert with the city, and they've experienced some delays. So these things are contributing to some of the things we're seeing in the finances. And so it's not an issue where we're concerned about management. This is more so as a function of not being able to grow and being small, squeezing on the budget with the increased costs that schools have to bear. And so, they're at a size, we've been recommending and closing schools that are like under 300 kids. And so they're in that undersized and they're experiencing that challenge at being so tight. And so part of the conditions is that they need to actually expand and we would do additional financial reviews. And so I just wanted to be clear about what there is, but there's been challenges in the budget in this interim, in this first review as a charter.
And any questions or comments?
Any questions on New Song Academy? Go ahead, Commissioner. Go.
Thank you again. So I understand the condition around increasing is really around their financial sustainability and their ability to do more things programmatically. But you also sort of made it sound like, am I correct in understanding that in order to grow, they would have to successfully move into this new building? Are they limited in their current building in terms of their ability to grow?
Yeah, so part of what we will talk with them about is other ways to expand. So that's going to be sort of our continued sort of conversation with them. The delays in getting the building has to do with when buildings are left open, sometimes people take things out of the building, and so someone before they had full control of the building has impacted like the pipes. So this adds additional costs. So I think we have to be creative with them, but I think we have like a path forward, or clear path forward. And so we'll keep you updated very frequently on these. These are not like the other kinds of, both for them in Green School, these are not like the other kinds of conditions where you need some time to see. So you'll get much more frequent updates if you approve this contract with the conditions that we're recommending.
Sounds good. I was cognizant of trying not to set people up to fail. If is this a feasible thing for them to achieve?
We would not recommend continuing if we didn't think we had a feasible path forward.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any additional on New Song? All right, thank you so much, Owen. We really appreciate everything. Especially recognizing this is a heavy lift this time of year. We appreciate just the thorough updates, the organization of the process, ensuring that we're well informed as board commissioners and are able to make our decisions on the process. So thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Slater Harrington, and I'm also in favor. Thank you so much. That motion passes. We hope that you all have a good evening. We look forward to seeing you guys back soon here.